Good afternoon to everybody here. It's an honor, it's a pleasure to address you through this organization, Epic Families, under the leadership of Rabbi Yaakov Goodman. A wonderful organization, which are doing great work, and in Mitzvah Hashem, there should be matzliach to continue. Rabbi Yaakov Goodman with his whole team should have hatzlacha to further and to spread their wings and help many more families. I'd like to share with you a thought, a bit minyona diyoma in yona chinuch, to empower parents, which will Hashem inspire the children. And I'll start with the Gemara in Sukkah. The Gemara in Sukkah says, Omar Rab Shimon bar Yochai, Ro'isi bnei aliyah v'hemuotim. Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai says, the bnei aliyah, people who thrive and grow to great heights, are muotim, are only a few. Im elefein, if there are 1,000 people who are bnei aliyah in this world, aniu b'ni mehem. I and my son will be amongst those 1,000. In Meohem, if there are 100, aniu b'ni mehem. Im shnayim heim, aniu b'ni heim. If there are 1,000, my son and me will be amongst them. If it's 100, again, I and my son will be amongst them. Im shnayim heim, if there are only 2, aniu b'ni heim. It's going to be those 2. If there are only 2 people who are bnei aliyah, who are steiging and growing in spirituality, then if it's only 2, it's going to be aniu b'ni. What would Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai say if it's 1? If there's only 1 ben aliyah in the world, will it be himself or will it be his son? He didn't ask that question. Why not? So I once heard a beautiful understanding. Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai never asked, if there'll only be 1 ben aliyah in the world, will that be my son or me? Because Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai understood the success in chinuch, the success in continuity, there needs to be aniu b'ni. There needs to be at least 2 bnei aliyah. There's no such thing as I be a ben aliyah and no, not my son, because then there's no success and no continuity. Equally, my son will not be able to be a ben aliyah if I'm not a ben aliyah. Where will my son learn and see how to be a ben aliyah? So he only said, im shnayim heim. The minimum must be there must be 2 bnei aliyah in the world. If there's only 2, then aniu b'ni behen. Then it's me and my son. 1, me without my son, then no continuity. That's no success. Equally, my son will not be able to be a ben aliyah. My son will not be able to grow in spirituality without me also being a ben aliyah, a person who grows in spirituality, in ruchnias. This is a yesod, a fundamental yesod in chinuch, in the halachas of chinuch, which we have to remember. We teach our children a lot. We educate them. We tell them a lot. We explain them today a lot. But are we aware that greater influence in the education of our children than what we tell them is the example which we are to them? We can't expect our children to be bnei aliyah. We can't expect our children to love Torah, to be dedicated to Torah, without being the example that we are dedicated to Torah, we love Torah. What the child sees its parents doing has a far great impact and a far greater impression than preaching, telling, and explaining a child what Torah mitzvah is all about. The Chazon Ish once saw a father in shul getting angry at his child and giving his child a telling off for talking in the middle of davening. After davening, the Chazon Ish went over to that person and told him, you taught your child 2 lessons. Firstly, that one mustn't talk in davening. Secondly, that one can get angry and that one's allowed to get angry. The first lesson, I'm not sure that the child absorbed it. I'm not sure if the child got it. The second lesson, I'm sure the child got it. The first lesson was what the father preached to the child. Don't speak in davening. Maybe the child got the message, maybe it didn't. But the message which the father didn't preach, which he did, and he showed the child with his action that one can and is allowed to get angry, that the child got. That's sure. Because an action leaves a greater impression to the children than just words. In Pasha Shoftim, the Haftarah of Pasha's Nosai, in chapter Gimel, we learn then the story, the famous story of Monoach. Monoach didn't have any children, and the Malach came to his wife, and the Malach told her that she will be blessed with a child. This child, which later became Shimshon, the Malach said, "Ve'atoi shomri no, ve'al tishtu yain v'sheicha." You shouldn't drink any wine. Ve'al toichlu kol tomei. You shouldn't eat anything tomei. You will have this child directly during the pregnancy. You mustn't eat and drink anything which is nausea. Mustn't eat or drink and do. And you should keep this child, which child should be a nausea. You should look after it well. To cut the long story short there, what we say there in that Haftarah, Monoach wanted to meet this Malach, and he was zeicher to meet him afterwards. And Monoach asked, did you speak to my wife and gave her this news that she's going to have a child, and you instructed her all these instructions? May be true what you have said. What will be the conduct? What will be the behavior of this child, this special child, which I have to keep already all halachas of nausea? My wife will have to keep all these halachas of nausea ready when she's pregnant. He replied to the husband, to Monoach, whatever I told the woman, that you should keep. And he repeats in more details. Anything which comes from the grape wine, she shouldn't eat. Anything which is tome mustn't be eaten. Everything which I've told your wife, you should keep. Says up Shimon Schwartz. What did Monoach want to hear from this Malach? What did he ask over here? He asked the questions. The words are, what will be the behavior of this child? He explained. Monoach asked, how can my child be a Nazir and keep all the halachas of Nazirus if there's no example? I'm not a Nazir. Where's the example to my child, which I'm supposed to dedicate to Shemayim, to do Avodas Hashem? And he can't see the actions, the behavior, the life of a Nazir. Ma mishpat hana'u ma'aseyu. Vayom Malach Hashem el Monoach. The Malach answered to Monoach, Mikol asher umati el isha tishomea. Whatever I have told your wife she should keep, and she should educate that child later on, tishomea, you should also keep. If you keep it, even though you don't have to be a Nazir, but if you keep it and you do it, then your child will have an example of how to live the life of a Nazir, and he will then be able to be a Nazir, as he was Shimshon, as we know. A child who doesn't see an example. We can preach and talk and explain from today till tomorrow. It will never reach the level of living an example to a child. Avraham Avinu was chosen to be the beginning of the nations of Klal Yisrael. And why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu choose him? As the Pasuk said, Ki yadati b'leman asher yetzaveh es bono bes beiser achrov, v'shomu Hashem la'aset tzedakah mishpat. I know, I can entrust Avraham Avinu, that he will be mitzvah, he will command his children, his household. V'shomu Hashem la'aset tzedakah mishpat. They will do avodas Hashem, tzedakah, charity, umishpat, justice. And since I know he's going to be Yetzaveh Esbonov, he's going to command us to his children, therefore I can choose him to be the Avraham Avinu, the beginning of the Ovos, the beginning of Klal Yisrael. Where did Avraham Avinu command his children, Yaakov, how to behave? Where is his tzavor? I've not found his tzavor anywhere in the Torah. We don't find he commanded and he told his children what to do or what not to do. The answer is, Avraham Avinu wasn't somebody who was preaching, wasn't somebody who was darshaning and telling people what to do. He was somebody who lived an example, which is much more powerful than words. The Sfas Emes says, the man asher yetzaveh es bonov, because he will command his children. Yetzaveh come from the Loshen Tzavse, together, a chavuse together, a father with his children together. When they live together, when a father shows an example, what it means to put oneself out for Torah, what it means to put oneself out of a comfort zone for mitzvahs. It's not only what we do when it's convenient, we always do it. And we love to do it always. And he practices that day in and day out. The child sees and gets a love for Torah and for mitzvahs. We see that in the Psukim before, beginning of Parshas Vayero, where the three Malachim came to visit Avraham Avinu. ואל הבוקר רוץ אברהם, ויקח רק וטוב. Avram, with his rezus, went to his cattle, and he took the rach, the toiv, the best of the best which he had. Vayiten el hana vayama la'asos. He gave it to the na, to Yishmael, to go and prepare it for these guests. Vayama la'asos. They had this rezus. They did it with rezus. Rashi says over there that was Yishmael lechamcha b'mitzvahs. Avraham Avinu didn't prepare it himself. He was mechanech Yishmael. He should be the one to do this mitzvah of achnosas ochim on the best with great reasons. But the obvious question is, that's the second part of the pasuk. Vayiten el hana, Avraham Avinu gave Yishmael to prepare this meal for the Malachim. The one who went out into the backyard to get the animal was Avraham Avinu himself. Why did he not also tell his son, Yishmael, go and take it, choose the best for these Malachim, to do achnosas ochim in the best way? The answer is, again, first Avraham Avinu had to be the example. That he did himself. He started off the mitzvah of achnosas ochim himself. Not telling his son to do something. Doing it oneself. Once he started the mitzvah of achnosas ochim himself, and he took the best, then he told his son, now you continue. Now you do the action of preparing it. But it first has to be an example. And afterwards, one can expect one's child to follow one's ways. And we see the great effect which an action has got on children and surroundings, which is unimaginable. We know Lloyd to live with Avraham Avinu many years, saw the Achnosas Orchim, saw the Gmilus Chasodim, saw how Avraham Avinu, the Omud HaChesed, conducts a daily life, daily, weekly, yearly, and he was with him a long time, and he chose afterwards to go to Stoim. When Lloyd chose to go to Stoim, Stoim was known to be Roim V'Chatoim L'Hashem Ma'oid. Chazal tell us there was not one person who was a tzaddik in Stoim, as Rashi says there. The Yerushalmi said they were putzim ba'aroyes. The Gemara in Sanhedrin said they were full of shvichas domim. The Talmud of Eliyahu tells us that anybody in Stoim who would do achnosas ochim, bring in guests, would be burnt. It was a place which was filled from roim v'chatoim l'Hashem oid. People who sinned, did bad, keneged rotzen Hashem, to a big extreme. And Lloyd chose to go down there. That's the place which attracted him. Nevertheless, the Pasuk tells us, when the Malachim came down to Stoim, and Lloyd was, let's not forget, respect the person who was the leaders of Stoim, we see that Lloyd went out of his way to do a great Hachnosas Ochim with great Mesiras Nefesh. He knew what it might cost him. It might cost him his life. And as Stoim wanted to break in and kill him, because that's what Stoim did. But nevertheless, this great Lloyd, who had this great position, who lived in Stoim for many years, did this great act of Milos Chasodim. Where did he get this power from? How could he do that? Why did he not get influence from the surrounding of Stoim over years that one doesn't do Milos Chasodim, one doesn't do Achnosas Ochim? But the answer is, as Rashi says there, Mibeis Avraham lomad Lloyd lachzir al oichim. Lloyd saw Achnosas Ochim to the greatest degree by Avraham Avinu. That went into his blood. That was the DNA of Lloyd. Lloyd couldn't resist not to do Achnosas Ochim because he saw it. He saw the example. And it had an impression in him that when he came to a danger of his life, when he came down, he knew he's risking his life. He couldn't resist because it became part of him. Avraham Avinu, the man Yetzaves Bonov Beis Yaakov. Not he commanded, only he had behaved as an example to his children, to his surroundings, with such great chesed, with such great dedication to do mitzvahs, to keep Torah, that it became part of them. And Lloyd, in a place of roim v'chatoim l'Hashem oid, knowing very well that it might cost his life, was Mesiras Nefesh, he couldn't resist. That's the influence, which an example, living in a house where one sees parents putting themselves out for Achnosas Ochim, for mitzvahs, for benodem lachaveiro, benodem lamokim. The impression which stays then by a child is not to be compared to what the child learns in text and hears from other people. It's much, much greater. We've all got a mitzvah of Bishnantum Levanecha, to teach our children. One part of that, the teaching, the text, we do out through the schools, through the moistes, through the yeshivas, the wonderful institutions which Klal Yisrael have built up over the last 50 years, wherever they are in the world, gewaltige schools, gewaltige yeshivas and seminaries, where through that, every father fulfills his obligation by making a shliach, the rebbes, the teachers, that they teach a child how to behave as a proud and happy yid. But that's only one part. With that, we have not yet finished fulfilling our obligation of Vishnantam Levanecha. Only a child, when it sees Avas HaTorah, the love for Torah, the love for doing mitzvahs, the dedication, how one puts oneself out for that one can only see at home. And then the child will, in Yetz Hashem, take this, which has been engraved in the child, in the blood of the child, in the being of the child. That's how we live. And like that, we can be guaranteed that Torah or mitzvah will become the main part of the life of our children. That no Moisés can do. The major part of that education comes from home. And if we are aware of that, of the great influence silent actions do to the chinuch of our children, and we practice that without saying anything, just to do it, just to get up and stay committed to Torah mitzvahs, show them the love of Torah mitzvahs, how we enjoy Torah mitzvahs, then we have been fulfilled. Leman Yetzave es Bonov es Beise Achrov. Then we'll continue the continuity of Klal Yisrael, because there are two people who want to grow there. The parents still want to grow, and they are still growing, and they're showing this with living such a life to their children and influencing the children that life. It's aniu b'ni b'neiam. Then each parent will be able to say, if it's two people who are b'nei aliyah, it's ani, I want to be a ben aliyah, and I'll be guaranteed that b'ni will also be a ben aliyah. Because it's seen. Torah, mitzvahs, is geschmack, it's good, it's sweet, it's enjoyable. Maybe towards Kabbalas HaTorah, where we all try to reconnect to Kabbalas HaTorah. And we know that Kabbalas HaTorah, lo yomushmu pi zera zarachom, pi zera zarachom. Since Kabbalas HaTorah has been amongst us, if we want to be part of that link, then we have to ask ourselves, are we the link which can create the next link? Are we showing our children how wonderful, how great, how sweet Torah mitzvahs is? Keeping Torah. If we get up for davening with a smile, with a happiness, with a pride, Baruch Hashem, moide ani lefanecha, we can thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we can jump to davening and we can enjoy the davening, and we show our children how we enjoy it to go in time for davening, and how we enjoy the davening, how we enjoy that continuing the day, surrounded with Torah mitzvahs, doing everything as correct as it can be, till the evening, till Amapil, and it's with a smile, and we show we are proud to be who we are. That inspiration to the children will last. That inspiration for the children will give them a chesed also to be b'nei aliyah. Like that, we will be able to continue. Leman Yetzave es Bonov es Beise Achrov. From Avraham Avinu till our generation, those who practiced that saw the nachas of the children. Maybe all shep an abundance of nachas. The Rabbi Shalom will shower us with siyata d'shmaya to see the nachas of our children. We will be the example of them, how to live it, and they will in Yit Hashem follow us and continue our work to be able to keep Torah mitzvahs with geschmackheit, with ava, with love, and like that be able to continue to give nachas to the Rabbi Shalom and all of us. Good evening. A happy and enjoyable Shavuos.